Hello, 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 and welcome to the Great Pop Culture Discussion. My name is Eric Resniak. I'm your host, and on this little spin-off of the Great Pop Culture Debate, we invite on creators to talk about their works and the pop culture that inspired them. And for today's inaugural episode, we are so excited to have Lenora Woods, the author of Roll for Romance. Hello, Lenora.
Eric, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We're delighted to have you. And your book is coming out on July 15th, correct, from Random House Ballantine?
This is my first book, and at the time of recording, we're a week out, so I'm feeling a lot of emotions, but mostly just really excited. So
I was going to say, that has to be a ton of emotions because this is a huge undertaking, right? Like, how long did it take you to write this book?
say about a year it took, but it was like such a private, personal project that I did for fun, and now to think of my firstborn going out into the world for the first time, it's kind of crazy.
That's so exciting. I mean, there's so many people who want to write a book and they never quite get there. So I hope you take a moment and really kind of like be like, yeah, I did that. I got this done and I got a publisher and we're putting it out there. That's a huge accomplishment. And I always say that modesty is outmoded in a post-Kardashian society. So you toot that horn.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. I'm definitely above everything. I'm trying to really soak it all in and just enjoy it and appreciate the journey and the adventure that it's been.
Which is very on brand for the book itself, right? Do you mind telling people a little bit about the concept of the book? It's kind of fantasy, but it's also set in the real world, right? Do you want to tell people a little bit about it?
Yeah, of course. So Roll for Romance, the short pitch is it's about two first-time Dungeons and Dragons players who fall in love both in game and out. So you have the contemporary storyline that follows our main character, Sadie, who's just lost her flashy job in New York. She doesn't know what to do with herself. And so she moves in with her friend for the summer and decides to play D&D to distract herself as she kind of plans her next steps. And that's where she meets this hunky bartender, Noah, who works at the brewery in town, and he's playing a very loud, flirtatious bard. And in game, she's a cleric, and her character kind of starts to fall for the bard and flirt with him. And then out of game, she finds that she is also falling for Noah as well. And so we go back and forth between the fantasy in-world portions of the D&D game and the contemporary romance real life portions.
I love that. And I was going to say, you had me at Hunky Bartender, but then you had me even more at Hunky Bard. And if there's one thing, if you've never played D&D, you don't know, the bards are kind of... Explain a bard. I don't want to take the words out of your mouth. What's a bard?
Oh, what's a bard? A bard was my first character. I really associate them with the highest charisma score you can possibly have. Like very persuasive, flirtatious, outgoing, usually associated with music or performance of some sort. My first bard played a little harp. He was a tiefling. But yeah, I would say they are just the most character is not the right word, but they had such a personality, and I just think they are so much fun to play.
So much fun, but you have to watch out for the bards, ladies and gentlemen.
True.
Like, you have to watch out for the bards. So you mentioned that you have played D&D in the past in one campaign. Have you played other RPGs, other systems, or just D&D?
Yeah, I've played D&D for about a decade now. I played a little bit of Pathfinder, but it was like very, very brief, so I don't consider myself a player of that. But I do have an extensive history with RPGs and video games. A lot of World of Warcraft, Mass Effect, all of the narrative-driven ones. So, but D&D's been the one I've stuck with for the last 10 years. So,
So you've been playing for 10 years. What's the highest level you've ever gotten in a campaign?
20. We
You already
went.
got
We
all the
took
way?
that bard, yeah, all the way to
Wow.
20.
That's
Yeah.
impressive. So if you're listening to this and you've never played, to get to 20 in a D&D game takes, for me, it was like 2.5 years. How long for you?
It maybe 5, because we
Yeah.
left that campaign and then we came back. But yeah, it took a long time, and he kept us there for one session and was like, "Never again. This combat took too long."
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds about right. So you've played a bard all the way level 20. Impressive. What other classes have you played? What's your favorite class?
Man, how much time do we have?
I know, right?
Just kidding. I would say cleric is actually my favorite, which is definitely influenced by the character of Jaylee in my book and the class she decided to play. I just think clerics are so versatile. You could have like a war cleric who's like in armor and going for it, or you could have like the pious nun kind of character. And there's just so much I think you can play with, like mechanically, spell wise, but also like character archetypes with the different gods that exist. So I've definitely played a little bit of each class at this point. I've just played for so long, but I think cleric and warlock are some of my favorites along with bard. What about you? Do you find yourself drawn to any specifics?
So I actually played cleric in my second campaign, and I had a lot of fun. We got the cleric pretty high up there in levels, and he was more of a war cleric. But then the when I got to level 20 was a monk. And she actually, it's funny you say that, she was like a nun that became a monk, and she was a tiefling. It was a whole thing. And she was just a total badass. I've also played a warlock, had a lot of fun with that. I kind of did a Sally Bowles from Cabaret, but super gay as a warlock. That was a lot of fun. And I'm currently playing in Pathfinder, not in D&D, an alchemist. And so I'm currently like 12 or 13. Are there any classes that you've tried and you're just like, not for me, can't stand them?
Thought I would. Like right now, I challenged myself to play a human fighter. Usually I play a tiefling spellcaster of some sort. But we just hit level 11 with the human fighter and I'm in love. It's actually so
Mm.
much fun to hit that many times and that well. So yeah, I was surprised. I thought I would hate. I thought I'd be bored by it, but it's a great time.
That's exactly why I've never played a fighter, because I'm just like, it just seems so boring. Like I like doing things that I can do something different each turn, and I feel like a fighter just is very like smashy, smashy, smashy. But you're into it. You're feeling is a way to kind of get out your yayas in this difficult time.
Little bit. Honestly, I think what it is that it's smashy smashy, but like reliably. Like I hit
Mm.
almost every time and I hit real good. So it's like it's just so much damage. Whereas like sometimes I'll be a spellcaster and I'll use a seventh level spell and it misses. And I'm like, oh well, there's that turn. But my fighter, she's always hitting. So
That is a great point. If you've never played D&D, you can be a wizard or a sorcerer, or even the alchemist, and you have this great thing that if it hits, it does great damage. And boy, if you miss, you feel like, well, F my drag, right? Like there's nothing I can do. I just completely wasted this spell slot. It's very kind of humbling. But yeah, great point about the fighter. So what brought you into Dungeons and Dragons originally? What was kind of your gateway drug into Dungeons and Dragons?
fantasy, just generally. I mean, I played a lot of video games, I read a lot of fantasy books, and I just wanted to hang out with some people who also really liked fantasy things. The way that I played my first game was actually it was a group of booksellers. I used to work at an indie bookstore in Austin, Texas called Book People, and they started a D&D campaign, and I was like, yes, now's my chance. I'm surrounded by people who love these books and love these things as well, and it was like the best introduction that I could have had to it. But I was always aware of it. I think I just needed the right time. I mean, every D&D player probably knows that like the hardest part about D&D is scheduling and
Yeah,
finding people to play with you. So,
yeah. Is that
yeah.
actually part of the book? Is that one of the things that you bring up? Like you're supposed to play regularly, and yet sometimes, though the spirit is willing, but the flesh is not. People just can't get it to happen. Does that happen in the book as well?
Should have. Actually, they play reliably every Sunday all summer. And I got a review once where someone was like, the most fictional part of this book is the fact that they play every week and they never have like scheduling snafus, which I thought was so funny and true. I should have considered that.
That is funny. That is very right on. In terms of the book itself, so you go between the fantasy world and you go between the real world, right? So for people who love fantasy books, is it still, do you feel like you're giving them enough with the fantasy? So it's still that kind of high fantasy, that really interesting kind of swords and sorcery. But then there's also the like, we're living in, what's the town that it's built? It's in New England?
Texas, actually,
Texas.
it's
Okay.
a fictional town in Texas called Heller, Texas.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you've got the real world stuff too. You find that there's a good balance. There's enough for everybody.
There's enough for everybody. I think if anything, it's a good teaser. Like I would say it's not it's almost half and half between like the fantasy storyline and the contemporary romance storyline. So I feel like it's a very good book for like fantasy fans who don't know if they're going to like romance or
Huh?
romance fans who don't know if they're going to really like fantasy. Or if you already know your reading taste and know you like both, then I think it'll be really satisfying. Yeah.
We put the peanut butter and the jelly together and you get the best of both worlds. And I have to imagine if you're someone whose significant other plays Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder or whatever, and you find yourself a kind of a widow for the RPG game, right? I have several friends whose partners is just like, yeah, they're gone for 3 hours a week to go play the game, right? It might kind of be a great way for those people to kind of get insight into what these games are like and what that experience is like, right?
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. I've had a couple readers who are like, my husband does this a lot, but I'm not really into it, but I really enjoyed it and I might try playing with him now. And that's like my favorite part is when people read it and they're like, I don't know anything about D&D, but this felt accessible and makes me want to play. And I'm like, that my job's done. Like the whole reason I wrote the book like is just please go find friends and do fantasy improv together. So,
That's awesome. I love that. So,
mhm.
talk to me. You mentioned that you kind of got into D&D because you'd played. You love fantasy. You played video games. You watched. Or you read fantasy books. Can you talk to me about some of the kind of pop culture that inspired you? So, what are some of those video games? What are some of those books that really kind of made you love this particular genre?
Yeah, of course. I will say the way that I first got into writing at all was through like fan fiction and role-playing servers on like World of Warcraft. So a lot of my writing background is already very collaborative. It's like writing with other people or telling stories with other people. So I definitely have that kind of history with I played WoW for a very long time and some of the other big video games I would say that really affected or inspired this would be like the Dragon Age games. Mass Effect was a big one for me. Baldur's Gate came out around the same time. When it first came out, I was like, I have to finish this book because I'm not going to write if I start playing this game.
Yep.
But I definitely think fans of Baldur's Gate would probably enjoy this book. But I think maybe the biggest pop culture things that have influenced this book specifically is I just really admire like collaborative storytelling and like different kinds of games and mediums that like leave space for that.
Mm.
And I think those are some good examples of some of the ones that inspired me.
That's great. And when you think about it, RPGs really are collaborative storytelling, right? They're kind of sitting by the fire without the fire, but you know, telling a story and kind of putting yourself into it. And there's something that's very wholesome and fulfilling about it, and really genuinely creative.
Absolutely. I think it's like it's kind of a vulnerable experience to tell stories with your friends, you know? And I mean like being playing in that space together and like if you're going to play like a D&D game that's heavy role play, like exploring those emotions together, like my tables cried at the table before and it's just I don't know, it feels really special to get to share that with friends. So,
My games tend to end up much more rage than sadness, although we
no.
have had a little bit of sadness. It's usually rage at the way that we're rolling rocks and people getting killed. But that's the fun part about Dungeons and Dragons is your character can get killed and then you just roll a new one and suddenly, you know, it's something else completely new and that's kind of awesome. So did you read any fantasy books when you're growing up? Were there any fantasy series that really spoke to you?
Gosh, yes. I mean, fantasy was. I actually was more into fantasy before I started reading contemporary romance. I would say fantasy was kind of my first genre that I really kind of latched on to. Growing up, I think the Brent Weeks Night Angel books were the first fantasy series I ever read. I read those in middle school, maybe a little too early. But then I went on to read like N.K. Jemisin and Tasha Suri's one of my favorites. T. Kingfisher, all of her kind of storytelling, not storytelling, storybook retellings recently have been like some of my very favorites. So I do think I really started there and then kind of expanded into contemporary romance, and now I love both.
That's great. When you were deciding what your first book was going to be, did you know it was always going to be fantasy?
Going to be fantasy. I think hilariously, a lot of my writing friends or people I've met in the community, we all talk about like what first got you into writing and what inspired your first book. I didn't think I was ever going to write one
Hmm.
until recently. I always really considered myself just to be like a reader. Like I worked in the bookstores and I was really in reader spaces and I just enjoyed kind of interacting in that way. And I think it was when the idea for Roll for Romance came into my head where I was like, oh, well, let me try this out. Let me give this a go and kind of see what I could do and see if I can marry these two genres that I really like. I definitely, when I wrote fanfic and other things, it was always fantasy. So writing the contemporary was kind of a surprise for me. I do think I will want to write fantasy, more fantasy one day. But yeah, this one, I don't think I knew what I was going to write until the idea just came. And then I was like, all right, let's get to work. So
There's a bardic inspiration. Is that
yeah,
not a thing? Yeah,
yes,
there you go.
exactly. Yep.
Speaking of that, I know this one's just coming out, so you're like, let me focus on this one. But are you working on it? Do you have an idea for the next book? Is there more coming?
Yes, I unfortunately I can't share a lot yet, but as much as I can share is it will be another D&D romance. So it will be another half and half kind of story. And I'm really excited to share more whenever I can. But that's the little secret bit that I will give now. But yes, I am writing it actively. And I'm very excited to share it one day.
That's awesome. Now you have a couple in-person appearances coming up, right? You're going to be in Brooklyn, I believe.
Yes, I am going to be in Brooklyn. Are you close to Brooklyn?
I actually am. I'm in Queens, New York, so I will do
Wow.
my very best to make it over there. But where else can people find you?
I've got my launch event next week in Manchester, Connecticut. We're actually doing it at a brewery called Illicit Brewing, which is
Fun.
fitting because most of the book takes place at a brewery.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll be at the Ripped Bodice on the 16th, and I will be at Book People on the 22nd of July, which is kind of a homecoming for me because I
Yeah.
used to work there. So,
Hail,
yeah.
hail the conquering hero. I love that. Will you be doing any conventions or anything over the summer into the fall?
We'll be at Boston Fan Expo
Ooh,
in August. I think August 11th is when my panel is. I haven't posted anything about that yet, but I will share more details as I have it. But being at conventions is something my nerdy heart has always longed to be involved in, so I'm really excited to go to Fan Expo.
that's awesome. And kind of on the same vein, I believe that you are a Ren Faire fan, are you not?
Yes, a fanatic even. My closet is maybe half full of Ren Fair costumes and half full of regular clothes. So yes, I love Ren Fairs.
If someone is interested in Ren Fairs, they know them, much like Dungeons and Dragons, they've never made the leap. What's kind of the one thing you would say to them, like, this is what you need to know to have a great time at a Ren Fair the first time?
Oh my goodness, what a great question. Um, I would say just to go into it with no plans at all. I think
Mm.
if you go online and try and find the schedule and you try to go to the joust and the music and all of those things, it's going to become overwhelming very quickly. I would recommend just finding one near you, maybe not even looking at the schedule and just letting yourself wander. I think a lot of the magic of Ren fairs are getting to go meet the vendors or seeing what kind of mead calls your name or what kind
Mm.
of shows you want to watch. So I think that is letting that magic just kind of lead you where it will and finding a good group of friends to go with um, would be my piece of advice.
And it's that collaborative storytelling, right? Because when you're at a Ren Fair, you are part of the experience. Like the actors and players will engage with you when you're on the street, and you can interact with that as much or as little as you want. You agree?
Yes, I would absolutely say so. There are people, if you don't enjoy doing that, you absolutely can take a step back and they will follow your lead. But I was at a Ren Fair just a few weeks ago where I entered the Nottingham tourney against Robin Hood and shot arrows and like participated in the play of it. And it was so much fun. So I think I think that is a great part of it. I would encourage, even if it's your first time, I would encourage people to dress up even just a little bit, just to really lean into the whimsy, like grab a little cloak or a skirt or whatever makes you feel magical and just go for it. And just kind of leaning into that whimsical part of yourself and thinking about who your character might be is definitely part of the fun.
Yeah, and I mean, given how difficult life is every day today, why not be someone else in a different time and place for even a day? Now, I mean, thankfully, I have to deal with the Black Plague, so, knock on wood for that. But, take a moment. So, at the Ren Fair, what is your preferred drink?
Ooh, that's a great question. They have beer and cider and all sorts of things, but I always go for the bee sting. It's half mead, half cider, and it's so delicious. The Ren Fair is part of what inspired my partner gave me a mead making kit for Christmas. And
What?
yeah, I started brewing it earlier this year and I've left it out to sit so that I can open the mead for the first time on pub day when the book comes out and
Oh
kind
my
of
gosh.
celebrate and hope it's not poison.
Yeah, we're
So,
gonna cross our fingers for that. Yeah, I love that. That's
yeah.
amazing. One final question for you. Doesn't have to be fantasy. Your personal pop culture recommendation right now. What is one thing, book, music, TV show, movie that you are completely in love with right now that people should go and check out?
Man, probably K-pop Demon Hunters was the I just watched that movie this weekend and oh my God, like no one's gonna be surprised. It's taking the world by storm. I loved that so much. So if you haven't watched it and you just want a magical hour and a half where you can just turn your brain off and just have so much fun and find a new soundtrack you're going to listen to for the next month, highly recommend. I had so much fun with it.
Amazing pick. Thank you very much. And if you are looking for a great new book to read, check out Roll for Romance from Lenora Woods. It is out on July 15th. Make sure that you find it then. Lenora, thank you so much for being one of our guests.
Of course, Eric, thank you so much for having me. I had such a great time.
Great. Thank you so much. For more book recommendations, check out our novel idea posts every Tuesday on Blue Sky or Instagram. And to find out what's new in pop culture in general, sign up for our weekly newsletter via our website, greatpopculturedebate.com. I want you to have a good one. And remember, everyone should enjoy their pop culture, whatever it may be. Now, let's roll for initiative.
Thank you.